Buddhism, not your usual religion. Think of a religion without rules, without a book to follow, and without a god. That's Buddhism. It's not like the religions you might know. No God, no heaven, no soul. Sounds strange, right? But it's still a kind of religion. How? That's the cool part. This idea is brand new in how people have thought about the world. The Buddha, a different kind of teacher. The Buddha was something else. He said, people believe in God because they feel scared and weak. He explained, you don't believe because God is real, but because you feel lost without that belief. Even if there was no God, you'd make one up. It's your weakness talking. It's like a shadow you create. People feel small and lost, like they're just floating. They don't know where they came from or where they're going. Without God, life feels like a mess. People need something to hold on to. God is like that thing, a crutch. They say to themselves, don't worry, God knows everything. He made everything. He knows why you're here. You can trust Him. That makes you feel safe. Just the idea of God makes you feel like you're not alone, that someone cares. You think the world isn't just a random mess, but that everything has a plan. Even a tiny hair falling from your head is part of God's plan. You might not get it, but there's a reason for everything. God helps you feel happy and safe. But the Buddha said, there's no God. That's why you feel lost. You made up God to handle the confusion of life. Imagine you're on a plane and someone shouts, there's no pilot. Everyone freaks out. Then someone says, this plane flies itself. It's controlled from far away. Look how smoothly it flies. There must be someone in charge, even if we can't see them. People who lie to you aren't your friends. You're living a lie. Live in the truth, even if it hurts. Wake up. Chapter 1, Wake Up. Be brave. The Buddha said, religions are made by people. You're being controlled by what's around you. You need to face the truth, no matter how hard it is. Don't try to hide or change the truth. If it hurts, let it hurt. If it breaks you, let it break you. The Buddha was honest, and he opened a door no one else could. He didn't care about your dreams of power. He said, wake up. Be brave. Don't hide behind beliefs. Take responsibility for yourself. Light your own inner light to see the truth. When you accept the truth, you're truly blessed. This is the Buddha's first lesson: beliefs can trap you. He wasn't for or against God. He said, believing God exists and believing God doesn't exist are both just beliefs. He said, denying God is like a tiny mosquito bothering an elephant. If you're not mature, you'll just find something else to worship. What's history, then? So, what's history? Karl Marx said there's no God, but he made history into a kind of God. He said history decides everything. He said communism was going to happen because history said so. History became like a super god. People need something to decide things. They can't handle a world that's just random. They need something to give life meaning. Freud said the unconscious mind is like God. Everything you do is controlled by it. They're just new names for God. It's like putting old wine in a new bottle. Charles Darwin said there's no God, just nature. Only the strongest survive. And then you have people like Nietzsche, who said that even things like truth are just ideas that change. Ferdinand de Saussure, a language expert, said language is a system, and words have two parts, sound and meaning. But why do we always need something to decide things? Like God, history, or the unconscious? When you're still growing up. Chapter 2, when your mind is still growing. If people can't be free, changing beliefs doesn't matter. You're still like a kid, looking for someone to tell you what to do. A philosopher named Derrida said that people have been trying to find one big answer to everything, but it doesn't exist. Every answer just leads to another question. The Buddha said, "I don't have all the answers." He said a grown-up person doesn't need them. He said, "I can only help you wake up, so you can live fully and find your own answers." He didn't give one big answer. He said that's a waste of time. First, he said there's no God. Then he said there's no heaven. He said, your heaven is just your dreams you couldn't make real in this life. And he was right. If you look at what people think heaven is, it's just what they want but can't have now. Never satisfied. Dukkha, no one is ever happy. In India, there's a story about a wish-granting tree. You sit under it, and you get anything you want. But even then, people aren't happy. People spend their lives chasing what they want, but they're never happy. So, they think they'll get it in the next life. The Buddha said, wanting things never ends. Even if you get everything you want, you'll want something else. Heaven is just those wants, those dreams. Religions say, if you're not happy now, you'll be in heaven. Just believe and pray. They say you'll get your reward later, because they know you can't be fooled now. They know you'll always want more, so they made up the afterlife. Why can't God make your dreams come true now? Why can't He make a wish-granting tree right here? If He can't do it now, why should you believe He can do it later? What's wanting? Chapter 3, What is wanting? The Buddha said, look at wanting closely. You'll see two things, wanting never ends, and when you see that, wanting goes away. That's peace, that's freedom. You can't fill wanting with more wanting. You can only fill it by letting it go. Wanting is a chance to see how your mind works. When you get that, you change. Wanting disappears, and you're happy. Not because you got what you wanted, but because you don't want anymore. Wanting changes. Religion says, you'll get what you want in heaven. Businesses say, buy this, and you'll be happy. Desire can be satisfied in this life. Materialists say, desire can be satisfied here. Just change the social structure, just overthrow the capitalists so the proletariat can lead, the capitalists must be destroyed. Then desires will be satisfied here, heaven can be established right on this earth. Capitalism says, you can be fulfilled if you strive hard. The West is currently doing this, fight, snatch, win by any means. Earn more wealth, more power. This is what politicians everywhere are doing. If you want happiness, the economy must grow, productivity must increase. That's what scientists say, they claim just a little more technology, and heaven will be established. And what does your religion say? They say nothing different. They say, desire can be satisfied, but not in this life, in the afterlife. That's a very minor difference between materialists and hypocrites. For the Buddha, both are materialists, and for me, both are also materialists. The hypocrites and the atheists are birds of a feather, there is no difference at all. Their attitudes and approaches are exactly the same. The Buddha said, "Start from zero, with no philosophy, no ideology. Start with emptiness. That's the only way to reach the truth." I have heard, a traveler opened a Bible placed by the Gideons in a hotel room. On the first page was printed, "If you are sick, read Psalm 18. If your family is in discord, read Psalm 45. If you feel alone, read Psalm 92." The person felt lonely and so opened to Psalm 92 and read. After finishing, they saw below, "If you still feel lonely, please call 888-1234 and ask to speak to Nanny." If you read your holy book carefully, you'll find the footnotes more intriguing. Sometimes they are not clear, but if you pay attention, you will find the appropriate footnote. The Buddha said all your scriptures are just desires, instincts, greed, lust, anger of yours. They are just creations of your mind, so they must be certain in a dogmatic, absolute way. With relativity, science has become more humble and honest. Classical physics suggested that knowing initial conditions could predict the universe's state at any time. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle countered that it's impossible to know both the position and velocity of a particle at the same time. If you know one, you can't accurately know the other. The more ignorant, the more dogmatic. In India, Buddha and Mahavira introduced the concept of relativity to religion, stating that truth cannot be fully expressed, that absolute declarations are impossible, and at best, we can only hint at it. Any direct pointing is impossible because of the immense and expansive nature of truth. Hence, a truly enlightened person must naturally hesitate. This hesitation is a sign of profound awareness. Unfortunately, the more ignorant are often the most dogmatic. This is one of humanity's sad truths. The foolish are certain, while the wise hesitate. To truly understand Buddha, you must be alert and open to his teachings. He doesn't present truth on a grand scale but offers guidance and suggestions, and even this is challenging enough. I've mentioned before, Buddha is practical. He seldom discusses metaphysical issues and approaches matters directly and simply. Sometimes his words may not seem profound, but if understood, they are incredibly profound. He doesn't beat around the bush or make grandiose statements. I heard about a young woman, just in her 20s, engaged to a rising star at a famous company. Everyone thought they were a perfect match. But the real problem was in their intimate life. Before their honeymoon even started, she complained to her friends, "He's a marketing expert, so every night he sits by the bed talking about how wonderful it's going to be." But it never happens. Buddha doesn't need to prepare or advertise what he's about to say. He speaks what needs to be said and moves on. He says, driven by selfish desires, people pursue fame and wealth, but ultimately, they waste years. If you're engrossed in worldly fame and forget the spiritual path, you've gone astray, wasting your efforts uselessly. It's like incense, no matter how fragrant, it will be consumed by its own fire. A simple and practical teaching, driven by selfish desires, people chase after fame and wealth. In common language, a desire is considered selfish if it harms others, and you don't care about them. Even if it harms others, you do everything to satisfy that desire. You are said to be selfish if you only care about yourself. But when Buddha speaks of selfish desires, he means if a desire is based on the notion of a soul, it's selfish. For example, if you donate millions to build hospitals, schools, or provide food and medicine to the poor, no one would call you selfish. But Buddha would say it's selfish, if motivated by the soul. If you think giving so much money will earn you merit and heavenly rewards, that's a selfish desire. It harms no one, and in fact, you are appreciated by everyone. You are seen as a philanthropist, a virtuous, holy, compassionate person. But Buddha would judge whether a desire is selfish based on its motive. If you give without any motive, it's not selfish. If there's a motive behind it, whether you're conscious of it or not, that you'll be rewarded in this life or the next, it's selfish. Anything driven by the ego is selfish. If you meditate to achieve enlightenment, that's a selfish desire. Buddha often told his disciples, whenever you meditate, after meditating, give back what you've received, return it to the universe. If you feel blissful, direct it towards the universe and don't keep it as a treasure. If you feel happy, share it immediately. Don't cling to it, or else your meditation is just an act of the ego. The ultimate goal of meditation is to discard the ego, the self, that is the disappearance of the self. Buddha said, driven by selfish desires, people chase after fame and wealth. But once they achieve it, they have wasted many years. You might have fame, renown, power, and be respected by everyone. But what are you really doing? Are you aware of your actions? You've missed the opportunity to chase after utterly futile things. You're collecting garbage, wasting time and energy. He said, if you're engrossed in worldly fame and forget the spiritual path, you've gone astray. He calls his path the way. The way path. Chapter 5, There is no death. There is no death. The Buddha taught not to worry about the outcome, or it will happen on its own. All you need to do is follow the path that unfolds. You don't even need a reason to seek the outcome, as the joy found in meditation, prayer, and giving is enough. You practice the path simply because you enjoy it, not for any merit, and you shouldn't turn it into a commercial exchange. Time flies like an arrow. Each moment that passes will never return. The Buddha said, do not waste time on foolish pursuits. Fame is foolish, meaningless. Even if the whole world knows you, it won't make you richer. How could it make you happier? How could it make you smarter, more aware, more vigilant, more alive? Since you do not cultivate your character, he said, you have strayed, and you waste your efforts in vain. It's like burning incense. No matter how fragrant, it will be consumed by its own fire. Life is like that, every minute that passes is burnt away. You are always on the funeral pyre, because with every moment, death comes closer, and with every minute you become less alive. Therefore, before this opportunity passes, the Buddha said, reach the state of no self. Then there will be no death, there will be no suffering. If so, you will not need fame, power, or reputation. In fact, the more empty you are inside, the more you chase after fame, because it helps you fill that void. The more you lack within, the more you pursue wealth, because it helps you forget that poverty. I often see that when people lack love, they eat like pigs. Whenever they argue with a loved one, whenever they are not loved, or cannot love, they eat all day, not knowing whether the food tastes good or not. Why is that? Why do they need to eat? Because they feel lonely, and that emptiness frightens them. If you are happy within, you won't care about fame. Only the unhappy seek glory. If you know who you are, why does it matter if others know you? But if you do not know who you are, you will want others to recognize you. You will collect opinions from others, what they think about you. And from those opinions, you create an image, yes, that's me. People say I'm smart, so I must be smart. You're not quite sure. But if you truly knew, why would you depend on others' opinions? Desire cannot be satisfied. He is holy in that sense. You must understand the nature of desire. It cannot be satisfied here or anywhere else. That has not happened and cannot happen, because it contradicts the very essence of desire. What is desire? Have you ever observed your greedy mind? Have you reflected on it? Nature of desire. What is desire? You want to buy a house, so you work hard for it. You sacrifice your whole life for it. Are you satisfied once you have the house? Once you have it, suddenly you need many other things. Then you want a bigger house. You want to be loved, and when you are loved, you want someone else. That is the nature of desire. It is always ahead of you. Desire belongs to the future. Desire is a hope. Desire can never be satisfied because its nature is a projection into the future. It always lies just over the horizon that you cannot chase. Each time you move forward, it recedes, and the distance between it and you does not change. When you have 10,000, you will want 20,000. When you have 20,000, you will want 40,000. The gap does not change. Regardless of what you have, desire always hovers ahead. The Buddha said, "Abandon hope, eliminate desire." When there is no more hope and desire, you are thrown back into the present. When you no longer desire anything, you will be satisfied, because you are no longer deceived by desire. So when the Buddha says there is no difference between the hypocrites and the materialists, and he infuriated the Brahmins, they had never been so enraged before. They tried to eradicate his teaching in India, and they succeeded. Buddhism emerged in India but vanished from India, because Hinduism is one of the most materialistic religions in the world. Open the Vedas and you will see prayers, rituals, sacrifices, all asking from one god to another. Every ritual comes from desire. Grant us more, even more. Give us a good harvest, favorable winds, successful work, abundant health, a long life. The Vedas are essentially just magnified desires, and sometimes quite malevolent. They contain not only supplications but also curses towards enemies, such as, "May my cows be plentiful in milk, and may that wretch's cows die or yield no milk." What kind of religion is this? It's even absurd to call it a religion. If this is the righteous path, what then is the wrong one? Buddha studied with many spiritual teachers while seeking enlightenment, but each time he left empty-handed because he knew none understood the nature of desire. These same individuals also harbored plenty of desires. Of course, their desires were projected far into the future, into the next life, but the object of desire was the same. The only difference was the timeline. Some desired things in this life. Others desired things pertaining to the afterlife. But what's the difference? There is none. Their desires are the same. Desire is desire. Buddha studied with many spiritual teachers, but each time he was disappointed. He never met a truly holy person, only hypocrites. These were people who tortured themselves. Some fasted for months, others stood for years, some never slept, and they became living skeletons. You wouldn't call them hypocrites or ordinary people. But if you looked into their minds and asked, why the fasting? Why the extreme effort? They would reply that it was to ascend to heaven, to reach paradise, to receive eternal rewards after death. That is desire. They all spoke alike, everything is impermanent. This life is just an illusion. Whatever you gain, eventually death takes it all. So why strive? This life will not last forever. Therefore, we seek what is eternal, immortal. We want absolute satisfaction. Only fools seek glory and riches in this life because, in the end, you end up with nothing. You work hard, but what can you take with you when you die? We seek a treasure that we can take with us, which will not perish, that even death cannot steal. Would you call these people holy? They seem worse than ordinary people. They are more materialistic than the materialists. Of course, they cleverly disguise their greed. Their greed appears transcendent, but it's very deceitful. It's like sticking flowers on a pile of dung. The dung is still dung. The flowers only deceive the foolish. The foolish. The Buddha was not deceived. He saw everything. He saw their greed. If you still have desires, you are mundane and materialistic. Thus, he did not teach about heaven. He did not believe in any heaven. Not that he did not believe in bliss, no. He believed in bliss, but it is not a belief. When all heavens are gone, when all desires have vanished, bliss bursts forth from the deepest core of your being. It demands nothing. No need for virtues, no need for asceticism, no need for offerings. Just understanding is enough. Soul, God, and Self. Chapter 4, the issue, Soul, God, and Self. The third aspect is that the Buddha did not believe in the soul, did not believe in God, did not believe in heaven. This seems challenging. We might accept there is no God since no one has ever seen him. It's quite possible that he is just a projection. We might also accept there is no heaven, as it could merely be an unfulfilled desire of ours. But no soul. Then there's nothing for you to cling to. No soul. Then what is the purpose of human life? If there is no soul, if death is the end, then all effort is in vain. What's the point of meditation? What use is prayer? The Buddha stated that the idea of the self, of the soul, has been misunderstood. You exist, but you do not have a self. You exist but are not separate from the universe. Separation forms the basis of the self-concept. If I am separate from you, I have a self. If you are separate from me, you have a soul. The Buddha said, existence is one, there are no boundaries. No one is separate from another. We live in an ocean of consciousness. We are one consciousness but are deluded by the separation of our bodies, deceived by the boundaries of our minds. And because of the body and the mind, and because of the identification with the body and the mind, we think we are separate, we think we have individual selves. The ego thus exists. For instance, look at a map, you will see America, but on the ground, there is no America, it's only on the maps of politicians. On a map, North America and South America are separate, but deep below the ocean, there's only one Earth. All continents are connected, they are just one Earth. We are only separate on the surface. The deeper you go, the more the separation fades. When you reach the core of your being, suddenly it becomes universal. There is no self, no soul. The Buddha was a realist. No soul. The Buddha had no beliefs about God, the soul, or paradises. What then did he teach? He taught a way of life, not a belief system. His method was very scientific, based on experience, on practicality. He was not a philosopher, not a metaphysician. He was a realist. The Buddha said, you can change your life without needing to rely on beliefs. Indeed, those beliefs are obstacles to change. The first step is to abandon beliefs, metaphysics, doctrines. When you look into others' eyes, you see your own reflection. You do not see yourself. So you beg, tell me who I am. Tell me I am beautiful, that I am charming, that I am graceful. Do you see your begging? Talk about my body, my mind, my understanding. Please give me a few words. You will grasp at others' opinions. If the opinion is not good, you will get angry. That person tarnishes your beautiful image if they think poorly of you. If the opinion is good, that person enhances that image, and you feel even more pleased. You rejoice when someone applauds. Why? Because you do not know who you are, you must search. You ask others, who am I? Tell me. So you rely on others. Ironically, they do not know who they are either. Beggars seeking from one another. They also seek you for validation. It's a mutual deception. A man meets a woman and says, "You are so beautiful, so charming." And she responds, "I have never met anyone as handsome as you." That is mutual deception. They might call it love, but it's just mutual deceit. Both want a certain quality, and both satisfy each other. Everything is fine until one of them tires and does not want to play the deceitful game anymore. Then the honeymoon is over, and they talk about marriage. Then, the harmony dissipates. The husband thinks, "I was under a spell, bewitched." The wife thinks, "I was deceived by him." No one deceives you except when you are ready to be deceived. No one deceives anyone if they are not ready, waiting to be deceived. You cannot deceive someone who knows who they are. They will laugh at your opinion. They will say, "Do not waste time unnecessarily. I already know who I am. Say what you want, but please do not worry about me. I know who I am." When the inner self is fulfilled, you will not chase after luxuries, nor pursue power. Psychologists observe that when people feel powerless, they seek symbols of desire to compensate. When feeling powerless, one might want a beautiful car to compensate for that loss. He wants the best car on earth, his potency has waned, so he replaces it with something else. He feels exhilarated as the car speeds, as if in the arms of a lover. Speed gives him power. He identifies with the car. Psychologists have observed for years that those with an inferiority complex always have great ambitions. Indeed, no one plunges into politics unless they are full of complexes. Politicians are typically people with complexes. They want to prove their superiority because they cannot live with the feeling of inferiority. What I am saying is, what you lack inside, you will gather from the outside to compensate. If there is no lack within you, you will relax in your bliss. Only then can you see your true beauty. Only then can you truly know who you are. The Buddha said, "People cling blindly to material wealth and selfish desires, so much so that they sacrifice their whole lives for them. They are like children trying to lick honey off a knife blade. The honey cannot satisfy them, but they can cut their tongues on the blade." Your desires cannot be satisfied in this realm. Illusions. This is a world of illusions. Nothing can fulfill you because only reality can satisfy. Don't you see? When you dream, you may eat all you want from the fridge. Fortunately, it does not disturb your sleep, otherwise, hunger would keep you awake. The dream compensates for what you lack and allows you to sleep. You think, "I am full now." You have deceived your body. The dream is a deceiver. When you wake, you're still hungry because a feast in a dream is as good as fasting. A feast and fasting are the same in dreams, for dreams are not real. They cannot truly satisfy. To quench thirst, you need real water. Only reality can truly satisfy. The Buddha said you always create opportunities to harm yourself, but you cannot be truly fulfilled in this life. Occasionally, you might taste a few sweet drops, sweet, yet dangerous and never satisfying. And those drops of honey are smeared on a knife's edge. You could easily cut your tongue. Look at the elderly. You will see they are covered in scars. Their beings are nothing but wounds and sores. When a person dies, you see no smile on their face, only the decay of their injuries. If someone has lived not being deceived by dreams and false desires, growing older, they become more innocent. In death, they are even more beautiful. Sometimes you meet an old person who looks more beautiful in old age than when they were young. Bow to them, they have lived a true life, a life full of inner richness. Because if you live truly, as you age, you become more magnificent, and a radiant grace surrounds you. An aura appears around you, and you become a temple of the eternal, the absolute. This is as it should be, for life is an evolution. If you age and become uglier, it proves you have licked honey from many blades, you have been wounded often. Old age becomes a dry, tedious affair, and few can close their eyes in peace, because seldom do people really live. If one truly lives, like a candle burning at both ends, their death is a grand spectacle, a sublime beauty. You will see their life shine brightest at death. In their final moments, they become a powerful flame. The essence of their being is concentrated in that moment, a light emanates from their essence. Before they depart forever, they leave a mark on the world. This happened when the Buddha entered nirvana. It also occurred with Mahavira at his death. We cannot forget them, not because they wielded power, they were nobodies in terms of historical impact, but we cannot forget them. Historically, they did nothing. We could erase them from history without any loss. Indeed, they did not exist for written history, they stood alongside history, yet we cannot forget them. In their final moments, they left a legacy for humanity. Their ultimate radiance showed us our own limitless potential. Seeing and believing. The Buddha repeatedly told his disciples, Ehipassiko, come and see. They were thinkers with a scientific mindset. Buddhism is the most scientifically compatible religion in the world. Therefore, as Buddhism grows in popularity, as humanity becomes more enlightened, the Buddha becomes increasingly significant. It must be so. As more people understand science, he becomes more appealing to them because he resonates with scientific minds. He often said, "What I teach can be practiced, and I do not say, believe this, but rather, test what I say, experience it, do not just believe." Beyond that, there is nothing that needs to be believed.